My money machine go beep, I love the sound that it make. Plus all these racks I'm count, I think that my machine about to break. Secure the bag, yeah, that's the brand, and we get to the bag. These private flights, Miami nice, these Gucci bags full of cash.
What's going on, family? It's your man Tay Sweat here once again, and I got another Money Monday here with my man, my brother, my best friend, E in the building. What's good, bro?
Good? I'm back. Let's go. Excited.
Yes, sir. So we want to actually come and bring you all something that I think is going to be very helpful in during these times. You know, right now we're in a very, very bearish or red market. A lot of people are down in their 401ks, their portfolios, in life. These times bring very depressed, very, just anxious times. And I want to, bring in some things and let you all know what we're doing during these times, how we're, staying afloat as far as mentally afloat, staying afloat physically, staying afloat emotionally, because these are times that, you can get pretty emotional. So we're going to talk about that and then maybe even give some advice on what you can do and how you can kind of maneuver through these times. So before we get started, I want to, like always, I want to say this. If you have any questions, if you want us to talk about a topic, whatever that may be, leave us a 5-star review. And in that review, put your question, put the topic, whatever it is. Tell me how much you love me. All right. And then we'll go from there. I'll go through and I'll make sure I answer those in a timely manner. All right. So, my man, what are you doing in these times? Markets, very red. S&P's in bear market now. NASDAQ's in bear market. And now they're saying real estate's coming next.
Yeah.
You're the real estate guy. So
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think, the one thing that impacts real estate, and we talked about it before, is, the cost increase during inflation. Mm-hmm. Now some of the stuff we're starting to see is kind of the domino effect, which is the interest rates starting to tick up. Mm-hmm. And what that is it's impacting people's buying power. Right. I'll say this, I own real estate, and for a lot of people that do own real estate, what they're doing now is they're keeping pace, right, with inflation. So if you are a renter, you're feeling this, right? You either are paying more in rent or you're starting to get those notices that rent is going up. But I mean, for me personally, some of the strategies I'm looking at now is, some of the properties that I had, of course, try to lock in lower interest rates. And then honestly, some of the stuff I'm looking at, projects that are coming up, it's like, hey, like how do I make sure that these rising interest rates aren't something that, impact me in a way that not necessarily stop me from doing business, but I get in a tough spot. Right. But personally and from a mental standpoint, I always like to think about it. Look, you got another day, right? From an optimistic standpoint, you may be in a down spot now, but things are gonna get better. You can roll the clock back 15, 20 years. Interest rates were in the double digits. Mm-hmm. So we're still half, right? It's still half of what, money used to cost to borrow, in the 90s. And so just knowing that and being aware of it, like we were talking about this earlier, go back and study, right? Like learn the strategies and the things that people did during those times to really be successful. And you and I have the benefit, we're young, relatively speaking, right? So for us to look at the next 3, 4, 5 years, start making a plan. But I would just advise people, take notes, right? Observe what's going on around you, dive a little deeper. If you're trying to get in real estate, it's a limited supply. It just always is, always will be. It's only so much dirt. It's never really a bad investment. It's just making sure you're buying at the right price points. And that's just something that you echo in the stock market. It's the same for the real estate market. I mean, it's a market, right? You don't want to overpay for a good based on the time you're in. And I think one other thing too is just step back from a mental standpoint, breathe, right? Like it's a lot coming at you. We live in that day and age where, media comes in all forms. Bad news just gets more traction than good news, right? So, the scare tactics and all the stuff that's going wrong or whatever, I just, advise people to breathe, focus on yourself first, make sure the people around you are, in good spirits. Find something that like lifts your spirits up, right? And talk to people and share the word, right? Like tell others, be that calming voice in your circle. Because a lot of people are looking for that calming voice and, they're not finding it. So, do your due diligence on stuff. Make sure you're in a good spot, take your money minute, check your money, check your accounts.
Absolutely.
But just realize, like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you're not in the worst financial spot that the country's ever been in. And likely, not even in your lifetime, you might just be, you know, you might just not remember that far back, or just people have short-term memories, right? Like, things have been bad before. And people have somehow made a lot of money. Some people might have lost money and like went broke and bounced back. People have lost jobs. People have lost houses.
Right.
But then look at where they are now, right? So don't think that everything is over and start shutting it down. Like, don't hit the light switches and think, all right, close up shop. Like, no, like, get to work. It's just a different strategy right now. And for me, I'm just excited because I know that a lot of things that were put in place, they still in place. You know, real estate is a slower moving monster. And so, you know, policies, funding, things like opportunity zones that we've been talking about, like those strategies are still there. So what you're going to see is follow the money, right? We said something, you're going to see the money start to shift how they move. And I know you've been talking a lot about that in the stock market, but same thing in real estate. You know, money, the big money especially, they're going to move and shift to things that they feel are a little safer, that perform in a certain way during times like these. And so again, just study up because the answers are out there.
Yes, sir.
Answers are out there.
And you know, I like that, bro, because what a lot of people don't understand when it comes to down markets, whether it's real estate, whether it's stock market, whether it's, you know, whatever you're in, because some of you all are like in like luxury goods, you know, cars. There are different markets and different economies. When we look at it, and you said it, the biggest thing I notice a lot of people do is, one, they get scared and they shut the lights off. Like, you know what? I'm out of here. Like, I gotta get out of here. I can't take the heat. And I personally, you know, I told you I want to say or let you know what I'm personally doing, but I'm also going to share what I think people should do, what you should do. And so what I'm doing is I'm studying harder than ever, right? When the markets are down, there's not a lot of opportunity. Well, there's a lot of opportunity. Let me say it that way. It's a lot of opportunity, but there's not a lot of short-term opportunity where it makes sense to be risky. So what I do is I like to go a little more long-term, because for most of you all who don't know, who want to get into trading, who want to be stock traders and you know, things like that, you have to kind of move and maneuver with the markets. So if you think you're going to come up with a strategy and you're going to do that same thing every year for the rest of your life, you are going to lose. You are going to lose. And I honestly could say I pretty much would go out on a limb and say that's pretty much any market. If you don't adjust with the market conditions, you will lose. So for me, knowing how to manage, that's the biggest thing. That's the word, the operative word for today is manage. Manage or management. And the reason why I say this is because if you don't know how to manage your emotions, manage your time, manage your focus, and manage your money during these times, you will lose. You will lose. So once again, going back into what I'm doing right now, I'm focused. I'm focused and I'm managing my emotions. I'm managing my time different, and I'm more long-term, macro focused. The reason why is because if we look over the last 100 years of the stock market, right? That's what I love about stock market, because it has history, crazy history. If you look over the last 100 years, you notice that we always have times like this. Now, there are cycles that these times happen in, whether it's a 10-year cycle, 4-year cycle, whatever. There are cycles that these things happen in. And we notice that, hey, if you can just make it through that worst time during that cycle, shit gets a whole lot better. It gets really good. Right? And like, you know, E said, this is usually the time where most people make their money. Like most of the money is made, or we call it a wealth transfer. Most of your wealth transfers happen during down economies, recessions. I pretty much could tell you, you know, it's how we got where we are, right? We take advantage of deals. So for me, I'm taking a macro look at things and saying, hey, where is this going over the next 5, 8, 10 years? I'll keep buying stuff, because I'm still buying stocks. For those of y'all who think I'm sitting on the sidelines, scared with my fucking thumb in my mouth, you got another thing coming, right? Yeah. I am still buying shares. He's still buying shares. Like, we're buying still.
And buying real estate.
Yeah, and buying real estate. Yeah, we're still buying, because we're not looking for returns tomorrow. We're not looking for the short term. We're saying, hey, is this cheap for 5 years from now? Like if I look at this stock, is this cheap now or is it cheap 5 years from now? And a lot of times, a lot of this stuff is cheap 5 years from now, right? And I'd be the first person to tell you the stock market was overvalued. It was crazily overvalued just a year ago. But right now, a lot of stuff is looking very sweet for a 5-year outlook. So that's what I'm kind of getting into right now, but I'm studying. And that's where I wanted to land for all of you. Why? Because as I study, I get to look at what's going on right now. Why did we crash? What are we crashing, around? Like what's going on during the crash? And then I get to go back and say, well, how many times have we crashed before this? And during those crashes, what happened, right? Was it a war? Was it inflation? I get to look at those things, right? And these are some of the things I want you to look at, were there new businesses coming out that people were just buying for the hell of it? If you look back at 2000, yes, we can look at the dot-com bubble. Same thing was going on. So the reason why I say study and pay attention is because if you actually look back, we call it back testing. If you look back and you back test some of this stuff, you come to realize that there's nothing to be afraid of at all, actually. Life goes on, profits continue to come in, and if you know how to manage your emotions, you're going to be very well off in the next 10 years, 5-10 years. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what I usually suggest. Study, 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 study. There are plenty of books you can read on this stuff. There are plenty stock charts to study. There are plenty, you name it. Study, become a better person during these times. Because if you become a better person during these times and you learn more about what's going on, the fear goes away. Why do I say that? Because the fear literally is there because you don't know. We call it the fear of the unknown.
Yep, that's really all it is.
That's it. So, for example, if I told you an untied shoe could lead to you falling while you're walking, falling and bumping your head and killing yourself, or bumping your head, or falling and maybe falling on something sharp and like severely hurting yourself. Well, if you didn't know how to tie your shoes, you wouldn't walk without those shoes untied, would you? You go, you know what? I don't think I'm going to wear these shoes, or I'm just going to sit right here because my shoes are untied and I don't want to, I'm scared, right? But if you knew how to tie your shoe, you go, oh, whatever. Like, bend over, tie your shoe, or sit down, tie your shoe, and then let's get to walking again, right? So I mentioned that because notice what I just gave you. I gave you something that you know about, and then I gave you the action. So if you knew you could hurt yourself with untied shoes, you wouldn't just say, I know how to tie my shoes, but walk with them untied, would you? You would actually take the action of tying the shoe so you don't fall. And this is exactly what we're going through right now. I can see a lot of people who may know something, but they're not taking the action. They're not tying the shoe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like you all to just study history, study the stock market, study the history of politics if you want, study the history of wars, whatever you can do to gain an edge on what's going on right now to help you curb the fear or eliminate the fear, study it. Become knowledgeable about it and then apply what you learn. And I promise you these crashes, you'll look forward to them.
Oh, yeah. And I want to pick up, because like you said, you talked about it. You want to learn this. One of the favorite things I remember is like, whenever you see markets move, by the time the general public, quote unquote, general public know about it, like the really wealthy people or the people who are going to make the most money from that move have already made their move.
Absolutely.
Like the moves are already made. And so I would say, like take a study, but like really be observant, right? Like explore certain things, like become curious about stuff you haven't really been curious before, especially if it seems odd, because those are some things that just are jumping out to you for a reason. And one of the examples I have now is really looking at art, because we had a conversation about how there's very there's a very strong pull now in the market for like luxury products like cars and jewelry and certain things. They pull, absorption, and that's because money is the fiat currency is pretty cheap. So and people are basically using leveraging that to buy things that are real assets.
Right.
But one of the things that jumped was art, and I was like, why is art like it's like it's selling for all of these records are being broken, and two things happen. It's why are people buying art? Who's buying art for these crazy prices?
Right.
And then who's selling it? And you realize that there's, insanely wealthy people that have had these huge art collections for however long.
Right.
And you do a little bit of research and you look at when they bought it. And the very interesting thing about it is they bought it in times like this one. And so when you realize that they bought art in a certain point, it was, okay, well, things were uncertain.
Right.
Look at what history tells you, and literally, Tay talked about the stock market. The history of art, like going back to like the Renaissance, it's like you put money in this thing, and consensus tells you that it will preserve value, especially if it's art that has traded and it has some type of value that's already been assessed. You let decades go by, and you bring that same piece of art that you didn't do anything to, you just kept it in a certain safe place, and you put it back, and it's 100x. 200x,
that's
300, and you're like, how did this happen? But people are saying, hey, I amassed this over time with the knowledge, knowing that it wasn't going to go down in value. And so again, people are looking for very, very solid and stable assets, and so that's something that I would say just pay attention to. And it doesn't always look like what you might think it looks like.
It does.
And I think that's the part that is that's the part that Taylor's saying. He's like, man, you got to look at some of this stuff, because this stuff, it's right in front of your face. You don't know how to see it almost. It's like you got to open your eyes, zoom out a little bit. And then again, like I said, study how, don't get down on yourself, right? If there's moves you want to make, whether it's starting a business, I would say learn a skill, whatever it is. But usually it's the dollars around it. Look at how people did it in times that were like this or worse than this. If you're trying to buy a house and you're like, oh, it's going to get a lot harder, interest rates a lot higher. Go back, like I said, go back 20 years, go back even further than that and say, man, when interest rates were in the double digits, how are people finding a way to finance?
Yes.
And then also be prepared of what might be immediately after this, right? So federal government just, Mr. Biden just signed President Biden, about making housing affordability and housing access, kind of pushed it into law. So is this the right time, or is now when you have times like this, what comes right after it, and knowing and doing the research on, well, maybe 5 or 6 months from now, this will be the spot. Because again, as housing supply dips, inflation goes up, interest rates follow behind it to try to curb inflation. What happens is housing becomes more difficult to buy. And then the government says, well, we still want people to buy houses, so here are programs that come behind it. So start to look out and be prepared for what those programs may be. In the example of wanting to buy a house. And there's other stuff for businesses, small businesses, loans. Like, just know there's resources out there that are either created or like really expanded in times like these. So again, study or do your homework, explore some stuff. Don't just watch TV and like let all the negative news, like go out and like find something to align with what you're trying to do in this moment.
Right. No, I love that. I love that a lot, because kind of like what you're getting to, for me, the luxury goods, like art, people kind of ignore it, those things, right? And what I've noticed even with our community, when I say our community, I mean like millennials, black, brown, like the community of, our peers. They don't know anything about that. And I say they, because I'm not putting myself in that group with y'all, because I know exactly what the hell I'm doing. And I say this because, once again, people looked at me so crazy when I was buying the stuff that I was buying, right? Why would you buy a Lambo? You don't need that. Why would you spend that much money on a watch? Why would you spend that much money on this? Why would you spend that much money on that? And literally everything that I've purchased over the last 2 years has well outperformed the stock market, right? Well outperformed. And, my answer to a lot of these people are always, well, I'm a trader. Like, I actually trade goods, not just stocks. I trade goods. I like to trade goods. I buy low, I sell higher. That's my thing, right? And sometimes, if I know what I'm really doing, I buy high and I sell higher. So for me, I definitely think people should, if this is something you all want to do, I think you should study maybe something that you might be passionate about. For me, I like cars. For me, I like, some watches, not really jewelry, just watches. I like nice watches. For example, I had a Rolex Sky Dweller. One of them I paid like not even 30K for it. I had just sold that not too long ago. I sold it for like 56,000. So we're talking almost like 100 percent return.
On a used good.
On a used good. And the reason why I like talking about this stuff, because let's just keep it real. Black and brown people, especially. I think everybody enjoys something nice.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody. Some people like travel, because a lot of my people say, I don't really need material things. I like to travel.
Yeah, they want experiences.
Yeah, they want experiences, right? Fine. I like to travel too. And one of the reasons why that's not one of my favorite or one of my number one things I go to is because I can't resell that travel, right? I can't resell that experience. And maybe somebody will argue me down and say, you can film and you can do this and maybe you can. Yeah. For the percent of returns, my returns are going to be better with the materials. So for me, I like to go into markets that are low supply, high demand, right? Yeah. And that's when we get into the whole car collection. And I'm mentioning this because I actually I like to go on Instagram sometimes and troll. I just like to troll. Like, who the hell is this motherfucker with a blue check and 1 million followers in the comments trolling people? I like to troll. I will not lie. I'll be honest. I like to troll sometimes, but I like to also be strategic in my trolling. So for me, I'm not just trolling for the sake of trolling or for the sake of being disagreeable. I like to go in and challenge people's thought process.
Yep.
Right?
Provoke further thought.
Exactly. And one of those thought processes, I'm glad we went here because I wanted to talk about this. One of the thought processes was somebody posted the podcast with Ocho Cinco on it, and he's talking about the fake jewelry. And he's like, man, they already done my background. They already, before I go to the club, they already know who I am. They already know where I'm at. So I'm not buying real jewelry. I'm going to buy fake jewelry because it saves me a bunch of money and I still get the same result. I get the women at the end of the night. And I get what he's doing. Yeah.
It's everybody. It's a movie. He's performing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's props. It's theatrics. Yeah. I get it. But of course, everybody agreed to it. Now, here was my angle. My angle was, I'm thinking, hey, y'all are agreeing with that shit because he just told you it's okay to go put some fake jewelry on. Right?
And it works for your budget.
And it works for your budget. So now you don't have that much money to be buying any type of jewelry regardless. But now you're like, Ocho Cinco said, we wearing fake jewelry, so we all wearing fake jewelry because it's cool. It's cool. And I challenged it. I said, well, hey, here's the thing. Number one, I'm not wearing fake jewelry. If I have it and I want it, I'll go buy it.
Yep.
Right? Because there is something that's said about purchasing something for a reason and then acting like it's actually real, right? Because at that point, it's almost like with business, right? If you know you're not that good at whatever your business is that you're selling, and then you create a price that's way over what you could actually deliver on, you have a hard time telling people that's how much it costs because you feel fake. You feel fake. And that was my goal. That was my goal to get across to the people, or at least one of them. And I'm thinking to myself, listen, when you do stuff in a fake manner, in attempt to actually act like it's real, we got a problem, right? Now, if you know it's fake, and you're like, no, this is fake. This is fake. Fake. We cool, right? And a lot of women, they were like, well, what about, fake ass and fake boobs? I'm like, no, but we know it's fake. Everybody knows. They're like, no, I wouldn't. What about fake looks, fake skin? That's makeup, right? Fake skin. What about the fake skin? It's like, no, we know it's makeup, so it's fine. Nobody's saying this is my real skin. This is not makeup. Nobody's, the women with the boobs, the boob job, nobody's saying, hey, these are my real boobs. But I'm not gonna say nobody. Maybe there are some people out there saying that. But most people are like, no, like I went and got enhancement and I'm telling you, these are enhanced, right? That's fine. My problem with it was when you go into an arena and you say, hey, you know I'm rich, you know I'm the man, and that's why I got this real jewelry on, but you know it's fake. Now you walk around with this different type of feeling. Same thing with the business owner, like I mentioned. You go into a business, you say, I'm worth $10,000 a session, but you know you have a hard time telling people how much it costs because you know you're not worth $10,000 a session yet, right? And it's a real thing. It's a psychology. You know, I love psychology. That's my thing. Absolutely. That's what makes me good at the stock market. But so I wanted to say that because that's one thing. But now let's talk about the side of returns, right? Because I like buying things that return money. And so I challenged the fake jewelry thing, and I said, hey, this is it's not the right way to do it, you know. And this is, for me personally, this is an opinion of mine. I say this is what, you know, is wrong with our community because we think we have to do this to get a certain thing. So now you have the cap culture. And of course, people didn't like that. Once again, they're like, oh, what do you mean? You know, cap culture. You saying? And it's like, no, listen. My man, Ocho, said, hey, they done their research already. They know who I am. I don't need to go buy real jewelry. Well, my challenge to that was, well, if you the man, you ain't gotta buy no jewelry. Nothing.
Yeah, I don't have to show anything.
Right. Mm-hmm. You don't have to buy any jewelry. And I say that because really, like, when I say really rich people, what I mean is people who actually are rich, they don't have to do anything, right? They don't have to do anything. I'm being honest. Yeah. They don't have to do anything. Like, even for me, like, when I'm going to get into it, especially when you're really rich and you kind of have those toys that you like already, like the cars, which I have my car because it goes up in value. Mm-hmm. The houses, I have the houses because they go up in value. And then some really rich people have like $300 million yachts.
Yeah, they got their boats. Yeah, that's it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you have these things, you see these guys, they dress down. You know, they got sandals, you know, a little t-shirt here and there. They good.
Because buying that don't even matter anymore.
Because it's like, why would I buy, you know, designer shit? And I'm going to do a show on that. We'll talk about that next because I really want to talk and address why rich people do that. Because I hear a lot of people saying that. But they're saying like, I don't really need that. You know who I am. If Bill Gates walk in this motherfucker, you don't need to see a chain on Bill Gates. Like, what are you talking about, right? What are you talking about here? I'm Bill Gates.
Yeah.
What do you mean I ain't got no swag because I don't have a iced out necklace? I will buy your job, fire you and your boss. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a different thing. And that's what I want to get our people across. Like, if you want the jewelry, go get the jewelry, right? But if you're doing it for a reason, find out what that reason is and then find out, do I have to really buy fake jewelry to get that reason across or to get that thing across? Maybe you don't, right? Because honestly, I like Ocho Cinco. And Ocho, he can get the women without the fake jewelry. He doesn't have to do that. He can go in there with some regular shoes on, some regular clothes. And, you know, people going to see that bald head of his and be like, man, that's Ocho. Like, and the women going to flock. Yeah. He didn't have to play that game. So that was my thing.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's interesting though, because like you said, it's what your goal is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said, hearing him say it, like I understand where he's coming from, right? But here's the thing: he's somebody who has made a lot of money for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. So I always say this, you know, understand where you get your information from, and some people you don't compare what they do to what you do. Mm-hmm. What he does, he's like, look, that doesn't even matter, and I think about it in the same way. Like I said, it's theatrics, like you said, it's performance. If Denzel Washington or somebody goes and you see them training day, he has all that stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's a movie. Right. He got chains and stuff on. Mm-hmm. He's not going out like that on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. And with Ocho Cinco, and his point that he made is like, there's an expectation that I should look like this.
Right.
And or the kind of people that I want to pay attention to me expect me to look like this. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I always think that's kind of the thing. It's like, are you jumping through these hoops for somebody else's like validation? And I'm like, no. Like, my big thing is, we talked about this already. If you can't afford it and you decide what afford means, if you can't afford it, if you don't make that much money, you just don't have it yet. You just don't have it. Why are you out here trying to trick people?
Right.
Like Ocho Cinco doing it, I could buy it, I just choose not to. And it's like, all right, but then everybody looks at you and you talk about cap culture. Now, you know, you see these videos now where people carry the little meter around because it's like, we got to see what you really do.
Exactly.
Like that's an evaluation that people feel like they got to do now. Like, are you wearing all these chains? Is it real? And for me, I think it goes back to the point of, if I'm going to present myself a certain way, I want to really have proven that to myself.
Yes.
And that's why I like when you said, it's like, if you're going to go out and tell somebody you worth X or you have X, then actually be worth that or actually have it. Because if not, what are you doing?
Exactly.
And like I said, if you just doing it for the applause in the moment and whatever, if that's your goal, then, you know, okay. But that's like, that's a psychology thing. That's a different way of wanting to move through life. I just feel like as long as I understand me and I'm good with myself, cool.
Yep.
And I think that's the point I wanted to make. Ocho Cinco's coming from a place of, I'm already good with me. Even though I'm wearing this for other people and doing it, I feel like he's pretty confident in what he can do.
Absolutely.
If you hear him and I'm like, yeah, I'll buy fake jewelry too. But are you confident in yourself before you make that choice? Like, don't just you know, listen to that ear hustling of like, yeah, that makes sense to me, and go regurgitate it or like take that as principle when you haven't done the things he's done.
Yep.
You don't have the bank account he has. And his point was, I could buy it, but I choose not to. And like he said, if he's wearing this to go out to a club and people gonna be feeling on him and grabbing on him or whatever, he might be one of those people that's like, if I spend that much money on something, people can't touch me or it while I have it on. So I'm not wearing that out. So I think that's the key point, is you can afford it and you decide not to. Don't just take that as like, yeah, I'm gonna get fake stuff. I'm gonna be clean. I'm gonna be fresh.
Right.
I'm wearing all this, and they gonna
skip all the hard work.
And skip the hard work. Yeah, but we love that. You know, we like go from A to Z and you skip all those other letters.
Yep.
And so, but the last thing I was gonna say about it too is, you know, if he's saying that in a group of people and you see the group of people around him start to agree, again, look at the people who are also around him and what they think and feel about that kind of stuff. Because, you know, if he's on this show and he's talking to people and there are other athletes that also have access to or have made millions of dollars, and honestly, some people would give them stuff to wear.
Right.
Like they would freely give them something. Wear them. That's real. Wear it. Tell people you got it from me. Give it back. Like it means something totally different to them. So like, don't be just trying to align yourself with what they said. They different dudes in different spaces doing different things.
Absolutely. And you know, that's what I have nothing against Ocho Cinco and what he said, because like I said, I actually like Ocho. You know, that's one of my favorite wide receivers. But I wanted to just bring in that extra perspective, but also challenge our people. Because like I said, I mentioned, you know, I like to throw that out a lot, because honestly, I'm excited and I'm proud of my work, right? I'm proud of my work because I'm not the only one doing this now. There are other people who go out and buy Rolexes and other things, and they made money. They capitalize off it. And I'm like, I did that for my people, right?
Yeah.
You went out and bought something that you could actually wear and enjoy and flash and show off, right? And be like, oh yeah, I got the Rolex. And then once inflation kicked up some more and things went, you know, south, your Rolex went up. And I literally have people call me every day or text me every day. And they're like, hey, Tay, I appreciate you because, yeah, like I have some Audemars. I have some, you know, Patek, you know, Philippe's, and I have some other, you know, Rolexes, things like that. And they went up in value, like they really did. And, you know, I paid 40, 50K for this. I just sold one for $120,000. Congratulations, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations. Because while the market's falling, you just, you know, you cashed out. Now you can go put that in the market while shit is cheap. So it was one of those things. And I, like I said, I mentioned that on that post because I knew a lot of people didn't know that. Yeah. And I got a lot of those comments. Nobody's paying more than you pay for something used. And it's like, you have no idea. You have no idea what you're talking about. No idea at all. And that, like I said, that's definitely something I want to continue.
But real quick, the thing that's releasing it too is people should stop saying that now, right? Like, so right now what happened with the whole chip shortage and all the logistics and everything, the world doubled down on limiting supply increases value.
Absolutely.
And the used car market went crazy. Like the truck that I have that I bought that on paper should have been worth like 40 grand. It was worth like 60.
Yep.
And it was just because they can't get enough of them. And this is a truck that's got like, well, at the time when I looked, because I was like, man, maybe I'm going to sell this. Like, sell this. I don't need it. But literally, like, it went up. It was like literally a third more valuable than it should have been, just based off of like payments and what the projection was, because you just didn't have access to them. And those goods, and it was used. Like, it had almost 30,000 miles on it.
Absolutely.
But again, it can be used. You can have things that are used. Value is based off of either the quality of the good or access to the goods, and usually those things go together. In the abundance of the goods, and then too, when you're talking about precious metals or precious items, like they don't go down.
Go down.
You know, the Rolexes, they diamonds, and you got gold. Y'all, I'm like, and people look at it and it's like, yeah. And then one thing I'll say this too, because Tay didn't directly say it, but in times like these, if you have a problem or you feel like you're complaining about like the cost of other like basic needs, don't go buy stuff you don't need.
Seriously.
Like, please don't. Like now, like we talked about
This is the
learning
worst
and
time.
learning skills, whatever. Like, now is a really good time to work on your discipline. Like, find the things that you really are core to what you need, focus on that, and the other stuff, like, start eliminating it. Because again, when things start to swing up, that discipline and having the ability to not buy and waste your time or your money on stuff, it will serve you greatly when you actually are on and things are in an uptick. Because right now, all of those dollars or whatever, the time you spend is precious. And if you're out there trying to figure out how to get that BS that you really didn't need, but the market was hot and you felt like you were doing good and you didn't got those bad habits, go and flush those down the drain and start getting some new habits. But yeah, don't buy the fake jewelry, because you can't resell it.
Right.
I mean, if you're gonna flaunt it and you're gonna get your use out of it, I guess. But like, you know, Tay's telling you to put your money in things that either preserve your wealth or increase your wealth. And now's the time to learn exactly what those things are.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's spot on, bro. So, yeah, family, just, you know, I'm always going to troll y'all. I'll be honest, you know, on Instagram, I'm going to troll some of those popular posts because I want to throw in a different outlook or a different mindset and challenge you. You know, some people going to jump on me because it's different. And they're like, that ain't right. Because if you don't think like I think, you're wrong. But I'm always going to bring that energy where it's like, hey, I could be wrong, but, you know, I think on one of the posts I said something like, I was like, I've accumulated more wealth than like 40 generations of your family. I'm like, you might want to listen to me. Right? But, and that's, you know, it's a very asshole way of saying things. I'll be honest. You know, it's a very asshole way of saying things. But am I lying? Right? Am I lying? Like, there are some people who, like, 40 generations of, you know, their family, they haven't made a lot of money. And clearly something is wrong. Yeah. There's something wrong in that generation. And it's like, hey, you might want to actually listen to the guy who could help change the trajectory of your generation. That's all I'm making. You know, that's the only point I'm trying to make. So, other than that, family, we love y'all. We're going to keep banging these out because I know, you know, you love them. Like I said, if you have any questions, any topics that you want us to cover, leave us a 5-star review and leave the topic or question in the review. We'll get to it. Other than that, y'all keep doing y'all studies. Stay calm. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.